As Liam said, I'm an academic, although I prefer to say that I'm a recovering academic, always in recovery. So I am on a one-woman campaign to get rid of the word networking from the English language, because I think what you're doing in an event like this is you're mingling. It's a bit sort of Browning in motion. In fact, that's what you were doing. You're all kind of brushing off against each other. If you're lucky, you'll end up next to someone interesting and perhaps someone who asks lots of questions, but then you have to answer them. So I think these events are great, but you're relying on serendipity, right? You may or may not meet someone interesting and relevant. And the work that I do is really trying to bring a bit of strategy alongside the serendipity. So I prefer to think of networks rather than networking. Now, I think probably what went on in your mind when Liam started talking about networking was some form of anxiety. It may have just been up to here, or it may be right up to here, but most of us have some sort of negative connotations with the idea of networking. It might be because, if you're like Liam, you're worried about being left on your own, so you need 2 glasses of wine just to make sure you can go and offer something to someone. It might be because you're worried about being rejected, no one wants to talk to you. It might be because you feel that networking appears to be a little bit calculative and instrumental, and no one wants to seem to be too self-serving, at least not if you're British. So for that reason, I think it's much healthier to think about networks. And over my 12 years as an academic, I've studied a lot of the kind of science on networks. And what's really I found very interesting was that all these scientists, because there are a lot of huge amounts of maths and rigor around the study of networks, they would talk about networks, and yet in the real world, we all talk about networking. So one of the challenges I set myself was to bring this science of networks into real people's lives. And I was invited to do a TED talk to a group of youth sixth formers in Manchester. This is one of the slides from my talk. And what I was really trying to do is bring the idea that the structure of your network matters. So when you start thinking about your network, you can start to think about who are the people who are most important to me in my job, and actually, do they know each other and do they work with each other? And up here, I've got 2 different network structures. So the person in the middle has got the same number of connections outwards. I've only put faces to some of them, but there are 12 or so connections for that person in the middle in both diagrams, but you can very quickly see that those are completely different networks. And scientists have studied the differences between those in terms of their benefits and their risks or costs. So if you have a network where you span a lot of people who don't know each other or don't work with each other, you're in a brilliant position for new ideas, for being able to combine perspectives from different parts of the world and come up with something novel. It's a brilliant network position for creativity and innovation, and a chap called Ron Burt at the University of Chicago has done a lot of work demonstrating that, studying managers in corporations and showing that ones which have more structural holes in their networks tend to actually get promoted faster, as well as contribute more to innovation. So it's good to connect people from different worlds. On the right-hand side, though, you've got a very cohesive network, and where everyone knows each other, works closely together, and that means that you'll probably have shared understandings, shared language, you'll get what each other are talking about very quickly, so that's a great network for getting things done. In the last year or so, I've had the good fortune to work with Amanda Scott, who's become my business partner. She's a coach, and she has coached a lot of people through transitions of various sorts, including outplacement. And for her, when I started to talk about networks, she instantly got the relevance of it for her work, because she had been with people who hadn't built up the right networks at the time they needed them in order to survive various rounds of organizational restructuring. And together we came up with the concept of a personal boardroom, and I would just want to talk a little bit about that today, and hopefully maybe seed amongst you some ideas of thinking about your own network in a very different way. We've been trying together to bring this kind of science of networks to executives in either coaching or leadership development settings over the last year. And we have sort of stumbled upon the metaphor of a personal boardroom as a way of thinking about the core of your network, the people who are very close to you, the people who... So this isn't about meeting new people, this is about the people who really matter and make you effective at your job. And we've developed a tool to help you think through your personal boardroom. So what we do with our personal boardroom tool is we start by getting you to think about what is the purpose of this boardroom, because you might have more than one. There might be a boardroom which says, this is what I need to be now as effective as I can possibly be at my job. But there's another group of people who might be very different, who talk about the next stage, or if you're looking to move to a different industry, change career. So you could have another boardroom which is about more future, more strategic things. So we start with what's the purpose of your boardroom. Then steps 2 and 3 are really kind of hand in hand. So you may do one or the other. Who should be in it and what roles do you want them to play? And I'll speak a little bit more about roles in just a second. And then the fourth part is what conversations do I need to have in order to really get the best from these people. Here at Wavelength, you've got a fantastic opportunity to be inspired, and to be inspired by people who are in very different industries, doing very different things from you, but nonetheless have common challenges. So here is a great audience of potential inspirers. I put these in 3 boxes. The left box is really about kind of information that you need to address your challenge. The middle one is stuff about power, so people who unlock resources, time, money, data, whatever it is that you need. And the third box is about development and being whole as a person. So it's partly about being, developing yourself in what you do, but it may also be about being true to yourself and a kind of sense of true purpose, true north. The other thing that we've developed a way of doing is helping people visualize their personal boardroom and think about where its composition and where these different roles are coming from. And if you just look at the circles in the middle, they're divided into, as if they were sort of cut up into slices of a pie, and there are 5 slices there. And what we've drawn is the circles represent members of my boardroom. So in my team, this particular person's got 3 circles. The person themselves is represented in the middle. And you can see that in their team, they've got 1 large circle and 2 small ones. So 1 senior person and 2 junior people. But then if you look at the horizon, if you like, the top part of the diagram, so those are people who are not in the company at all. So the boundaries of the company kind of lie at those 2 segments that are going out at kind of 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And above there's no one. No one in this person's personal boardroom who is outside the company, no one at all. And if you look around the room now, you've got a fantastic opportunity. Wavelength is bringing you together with 140 people of like minds with similar challenges. You've got a great opportunity over the next year to build relationships that will, if for you some of your gaps are there, now is your opportunity to think, who's in the room, what kind of roles do I need, where are my gaps, what am I lacking, and start thinking specifically, what help might people in the room be able to give you, and what help might you be able to give the people in this room, because of course this is very much about helping each other, and we all have something to give.